I love this. So we just started the flashback, and um you get like Nina and Brandon meeting for the first time. And one of the big things that, like, I remember I wrote this down. As soon as I started this part, I was like, I said it. But Brandon literally sees her from the beach. Like, she's at a like table, and it's on the beach, and he's like on the beach taking pictures, and he sees her, and he's like, "Oh, like, can I get your number?" Like, starts like yelling at her, and she's like, "No." He comes up and starts talking to her, and she's at lunch with Kit, and he tells her like, "Marry me." And I literally wrote this down because she was so ready to tell him, "No, I'm good." But he charmed her, and she gives him her number. Like, she agrees to go on a date with him. And that was one thing I wrote down, was that Nina and Brandon are like June and Mick. And I just like this part just like always gets me. This is what I like. Part one is what I think about the most. But yeah, it's just like insane. But yeah, there's so, like I said, so many parallels. I love Taylor Jenkins Reid. Um, Essentially, in 6 p.m., Brendan comes back, and you kind of get the flashback of like her and Brandon meeting and stuff. And like I mentioned, like you kind of see the similarities between Mick and June and Nina and Brandon. So I think I mentioned it earlier. Nina lives in this house that she hates. Like, she doesn't care for it. Brandon's the one that picked it out. He bought it, everything. She could not care less. She, like, doesn't like it. Well, you see that they get married, and he buys this house, and he tells her, like, "I wanted to buy you everything you wanted." And the one thing is, he gets it for her in Malibu, but it's on the cliff. She wanted it on the beach. He's worried about it having space for parties, and she could care less about the parties. She's like, just whatever. And he makes sure that it has space for like Kit and Jay and Hudson, which is like sweet. But he's thinking that this is everything she wants, and it's not everything she wants. And so she ends up just accepting it, which is kind of like what happens with Mick and June, is like he still does things, like he gives her what she wants, but he also like is very ugly to her. So it's kind of the same way. It's like he's giving her what he thinks she wants, but he's not actually talking to her to see if that's what she wants. Um, and so, anyways, they're touring the house, whatever. Nina decides like she's fine with it, whatever. She's just gonna let it happen. And it's like made a mention that they go up to the master bedroom, and they like, you know, they're hooking up, they're in love, they're getting this house, they just got married. And um, it's kind of sad because it says sweet and slow and never rushed, never wild, only tender and wholehearted. And that was the very spot where Nina fell to her knees a year later when Brandon walked out. Like, the same spot where they made love for the first time in their home is the same spot where he left her. And so you kind of just see, like, the breakdown that, like, she's packing for this trip, and he comes home, and he starts grabbing his bags, and he's like, "Okay, I'm leaving." And this part's really sad, is because she realizes that she's on the floor of, like, she's in her front yard, like, her front stoop, crying her eyes out because this man left her. And this entire last part, I, like, love, and it says, "Family histories repeat." Nina thought for a moment. Family histories repeat. Nina thought. For a moment, she wondered if it was pointless to try to escape it. Maybe our parents' lives are imprinted within us. Maybe the only fate there is the temptation of reliving their mistakes. Maybe try as we might, we will never be able to outrun the blood that runs through our veins. Or maybe we are free the moment we are born. Maybe everything we've ever done is by our own hands. Nina wasn't sure. She just knew that somehow, after everything that had happened in her life, she had ended up all alone on the front stoop, left behind by a man she dared to trust. second time. This is the second time, and she's learned her lesson. Like, this is me thinking, right? She's learned her lesson as to, like, she doesn't want to trust somebody, and then they leave. And this happens with Mick years ago, where she's, like, very hesitant, whatever. She ends up deciding to trust him, and she truly feels like he'll never leave her, and that they'll be together for, like, he'll stay there forever, stay with their family, and he leaves her. And that's something she also felt with Brandon too, is that, like, he literally tells her, like, I love you forever. Oh, I love you too, with all my heart, forever. And then literally right after that, this literally when he tells her when he buys the house. And then a year later, you're gonna tell me he just up and leaves to go with Carrie Soto? And, like, I love this. And that's why I think this writing is so great, because you, like, at this point, you see the parallels of her and her mom, and her relationship with her husband, and her mom's relationship with her husband. And so, that was pretty much it. I'm now in part 2. I'm about to start that right now. But, this is, like, my annotation for part 1. And it says, honestly, that was the perfect build-up to the story of her and Brandon. And, yeah, that was like, all this stuff like this is the annotations I've made, the first time I read it. So, like, I have another one over there. But, it was just so good. I already know she can get crazy. She can get crazy real quick, real fast. So I'm gonna keep going. Okay, so it's now 10 p.m. and you're kind of just getting, like, sneak peeks about everybody in the party. And Nina, I don't know if I mentioned this, Nina agrees to get back with Brandon, which is annoying, and Kit's, like, pissed off about it. And Brandon's acting like nothing happened, which is annoying. But it's just finished 10 p.m. and Hudson and Ashley gets there. Her and Hudson are, like, chilling. They're together or whatever. Well, he takes her to the beach and tells her, like, hey, I asked Jay, like, I feel like he does not want me to do this. But I'm going to talk to him again and let him know, like, we actually are dating. And this is when Ashley finally reveals to Hudson that she's pregnant. She's pregnant. They've only really been together for, like, 6 months. So, crazy. But yeah, Jay's definitely not gonna like that. That for sure. I'm still in the 11 o'clock hour, but Nina's best friend arrives and she's, like, confused why Nina's with Brandon again. She's like, what the heck is going on? Which is valid. But then we get a little bit more about Kit and the guy Ricky that she's hanging out with. And she's just kind of, like, hanging out. And, like, one of the things Kit is, like, determined to do is she's like, at this party, I'm gonna kiss a guy. Like, she's determined she's gonna do that. And she thinks it's gonna be this one guy, but then she sees that guy Ricky, and Ricky's been in love with her, like, his whole life. Ricky gets invited to the party by HUD, because he's, like, at the college that HUD goes to get his pictures developed. So he goes and he's, like, obsessed with Kit, and he's, like, very nervous and trying to show her, like, a magic trick to kind of, like, get her attention. And so she's, like, watching him, and he shows her the magic trick. She's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, then she realizes, like, he kisses her, and she hates it. She hates it so much, but there's stuff that she, like, doesn't want to admit to herself. She doesn't want to admit her sexuality to herself. She's like, well, I'm just gonna do this, and kisses Ricky more, even though that's not what she wants to do, like, at all. Like, she hates it, and she knows. She's like, this is not it. Like, this feels wrong. This is bad. Like, I don't like this at all. But she still does it because she just doesn't want to admit it to herself, which is, like, so now we see where Kit's at, and now we see why she was just, like, not amused by that guy at the beginning, and, like, why when we just mentioned, like, the party the first time, she's like obsessed with this like singer. Like it kind of all starts to click right here. But yeah, she still kisses Ricky, but she hates it. It's midnight, and you see that Mick is getting ready to go to the party, and you find out that he's been invited, even though there's no invites for this party. He's the only person that's gotten an invite, and for the past 5 years, he's got an invite from Kit, but this is the first year he's noticed, so he's getting ready to go. But part of the reason he's going is because he feels lonely, and he thinks that maybe he can have, like, reconnect with his kids, which is kind of annoying, because it's like, they're in their 20s, and now you want to connect with them. That's stupid. But yeah, so Mick's about to go to the party. So Jay was just with Laura in Hudson's truck, and he found the pictures that Hudson took of him and Ashley um, earlier that day that he got developed and stuff. And so he's finding out now, and he's finding out about Hudson and Ashley, and Hudson and Ashley are kind of like talking about them having the baby, and they're both like really excited. So it's like this moment where it's like Jay's crushed, but Hudson and Ashley are like, okay, like we have to tell him, but like we're both really happy because we both really want this, and that's like so sad. I'm freaking out. Like what the heck? It literally everything is blowing up. Like it's just blowing up. And Mick's about to get there. Like Kate is hiding her sexuality. Nina's not wanting to deal with having to actually tell Brandon no. Like stop, go away. It's getting intense. I'm freaking out. Okay, so I'm like halfway through 1 a.m. right now, but at the start of 1 a.m., you get kind of like a backstory of Brandon and Carrie Soto and like why he left Nina, which it's just a man needing an excuse because he felt weak and low, so he needed an excuse to feel strong. So annoying. But he essentially, Carrie shows up at the party and she starts trying to like burn his things. She like takes all his stuff and like goes to burn it, and then Nina comes out here, and Brandon's trying to like get Carrie to like calm down and like tell her to go, and Nina's like, no, you both can go, and he's like, no, 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 like what are you talking about? And she's like, no, you both can go. And this is the first time Nina finally speaks up for herself. And she's just like, no, like, I never wanted you back in the first place. I never wanted you back in the first place. And I never really cared. Like, and Carrie starts apologizing and tell her that she feels bad. Because a lot of stuff is revealed about Nina and or Brandon and Carrie's, like, relationship, like, affair. And you see that Carrie's like, I'll do this with you, like, if you feel like this is something you truly feel confident in. Like, I don't want to ruin a marriage if it's not, like, for sure. Like, if it's not a serious thing. And he still goes with her. And so she's kind of like, you're the jerk. Like, you're the bad one, Brandon. And Brandon's trying to shoo Carrie away. And she's like, no, like, what the heck? Like, you're trying to hide me like a secret when we were together. And so he just, yeah. So then Nina finally speaks up for herself and tells them, like, y'all both can go. Carrie apologizes, she leaves. And then Brandon's like, no, like, it's my house. And she's like, okay, fine. You can keep the house. I don't really care. But we're done. Like, I'm not taking you back. I'm not forgiving you. Like, I'm not doing any of that. And that's the first time Nina finally speaks up. And I really like that. Because it's mentioned, as we know, this party ends in a fire. So it says there was finally enough air within her for her to there was finally enough air within her for a fire to ignite. And then you kind of see everything else. And like I'm saying, this is where everything kind of just starts exploding. So Jay's with that girl, Laura. Like, he's so happy. He's telling her he's in love with her. And she's like, I think you got the wrong idea. Like, I thought this was not that serious. And he's like, what the heck? And then he starts being really ugly to her. And the girl's like, okay, peace out, bye. And he's kind of upset about that. And then you see Kit is still making out with that guy Ricky, and this is when I really like this part of Kit, because it's like she knows that once her and that guy Ricky stop kissing, that she has to admit to herself what she doesn't want to. And so she finally does. Like, Ricky's catching on and being like, she doesn't really seem into this. So he asked her, like, are you okay? Like, what's wrong? And she's like, no, it's okay. Like, keep going. And then she starts to kind of admit, like, yeah, like, it's actually not okay. And her and Ricky become, like, they start mentioning, like, well, let's be friends. Like, let's just be friends. And she decides to tell Ricky, like, well, I actually think, like, I like girls. And she's expecting something from him. And his reaction is just like, that makes sense. Girls are hot. And that's kind of like, that kind of, it's just really cute and sweet because Ricky's been in love with her his whole life, and he's finally like, things just aren't meant to be that way, and that's okay. But he's okay being friends with Kit, and Kit finally has somebody that she's been able to open up to, and she's like, the person I do end up dating, I want them to be like Ricky. Like, I want them to be cool, I want them to be fun, I want them to be smart, I want them to be kind, like all this stuff. And I just think that's really cute because it just shows that she's like, if I did like guys, you would be the guy I picked. And that's something she tells him. So I thought that was interesting. And so we're still halfway through, but I feel like halfway through 1 a.m., but a lot has happened. And as it keeps getting mentioned, the party's getting crazier and crazier. And like different members of the family have kind of mentioned the party's never been this crazy. Like Nina mentions it when she sees like a tray of Coke being um like served, almost like the catering people, like one of them has a tray of Coke, just, and then there ends up being like 2 trays of Coke going around the party. Then it starts getting more and more packed that people are like now like stuffed in corners, and that's not something they normally deal with. um you start seeing that like there's like people's clothes everywhere, like it just kind of looks like a mess. And that's, the party's always been big and iconic, but it's never been to that extent, and it's something that just keeps getting mentioned. So obviously we're gonna see that kind of explode and bubble up, but Mick is like down the road at this point. Like he hasn't made it quite yet, but he's down the road. So it's now 1 a.m. We're about to go into 2 a.m. and it ends at 7 a.m. So only so much more can happen. But yeah. And then Jay's pissed. So he's going inside, and I feel like now he's about to run into Hudson and Ashley, which is going to be intense. So I'm excited. I'm excited. But I'm also sad, and I'm also scared. So we'll see. So I'm finally at 2 a.m. and I got to this part where I kind of want to cry. But Mick shows up to the party, and Hudson and Jay are fighting, and Kit's standing right there, and he's standing next to her and doesn't even realize that he's standing next to his own daughter. And one thing that is mentioned is he breaks up the fight, and he's like talking to the boys and asking them like, what's happening? And they're like, what are you even doing here? Like, what the heck? One thing that I like resonated with was that Kit, in her mind, like he tells them like, I want us to be a family again. And Kit starts to feel bad for him, and she starts to think like, did it hurt him to be away? Did he think of them? Did he feel their absence every day? Had he picked up the phone 100 times but never dialed? It's like all these questions are in her mind, and it's her like, because of what he's saying, she's starting to feel bad, and these are the things she's thinking about. And then she realizes, she's like, he was an actor for a little bit. This is all just for show. And that's something that I feel like is so valid for Kit, is because this guy's never been there. He sees her, and he breaks up the fight. He's asking all these questions, and the boys are like, she tells him like, you're like, why are you here? Like, why are you asking these questions? And he tells her like, who are you? And it's like, who are you? You haven't even been here. Don't be trying to pull them boys apart and ask what's going on. You ain't even been here. The heck? And that's their own father, and he doesn't even recognize his own daughter. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. And this is why I hate Mick, because he thinks he's entitled to something. He tells Kit like, I know you, like I know my own soul, like blah blah blah. And he tries to build his connection with her. It's like, he's like, I held you the day you were born. It's like, okay, yeah, but where were you the rest of my life? You weren't even there. I hate him. I hate this man. He pisses me off. He makes me so angry. I love this. Where am I at? Where am I at? Where am I at? Okay, so Around the 3 a.m. mark, Nina, um, at this point, Mick has the kids all on the beach and stuff. He has Kit and Hudson and Jay on the beach. He's broken up the fight, whatever. And Nina kind of starts to go off on him. Like, he goes down there and he starts kind of explaining to them, like, the same things he would tell June, pretty much. Like, I want to be a dad now, blah, 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 all this stuff. And they ask him, like, what's changed? And Nina's like, nothing. Nothing's changed. He's never gonna change. This is how he always is. Like, he just gets a random, like, she literally says that he gets a random hair up his ass and that he wants to be dad. And that's literally what happened. He's just like, one day he's like, I'm alone. And he goes and wants to be with them. So he goes. And right now, they're still talking to him. And Nina, like, tells him, like, she starts telling him, he tries to cut her off. And she's like, I'm not done. I'm not done. Like, she tells him 3 or 4 times, like, I'm not done. Shut up and listen. And I love that because Nina starts going off. And she's never been the type of person to go off. Well, it's like later. I think it's like 4 a.m. now. And all this stuff's happening. The party's getting out of control. All the Riva kids are on the beach. Also, I don't know if I mentioned, but you find out that there's this girl at the party that nobody knows who she is. And Nina's kind of like, who is that? And she ends up talking to her. And she finds out that this girl is possibly like their sibling, that her mom died in childbirth, and that on the photo she has, it says that the mom keeps saying that she's like her daughter's or her child is Mick Riva's child. So like that's one thing. So that's really the only thing she has about her birth mom. And she finds out that like, well, you find out that her adopted parents passed away. Her birth mom died in childbirth. She really has no family. So she finds the Rivas, and she decides to kind of see if that's her family. And so she's there, they're on the beach talking, and she kind of shows up, and they're all talking, and at one point, Mick's telling them, like, he's like, I'm just trying to say, like, I wasn't capable of being a father, and Nina goes off. Like, she lets him have it. She goes, do you think mom was capable of raising 4 kids on her own with no money? No. But she did it anyways. She was like, do you think I was capable of raising these kids on my own with no money and making sure that all of their stuff was taken care of and I didn't go to school? And she literally tells him, do you think I want to be selling pictures of my ass to make money? Do you think I want to be living here? No, I don't want to be doing any of this, but I do it because I have to, because I do it for my family, and that is something you can never understand, and that is why I love her. That's why I love her. But yeah, he starts, and this is the part that I love, because he tells her, "You Nina, you're right. I'm weak," and she cuts him off. She goes, "Must be nice." She says, "Must be nice to be able to be weak. I wouldn't know." Okay, Miss Girl, you just be going off. Preach. Love that. I was looking at my annotations for all of these parts, and it's literally like, go off, queen. Go off, sis. I love her. And yeah, she's finally like, it must be nice to be able to go off on people when she sees Carrie. And she's finally like, he's the one person I'm going to go off on. And rightfully so. Okay, this isn't the last chapter, but it's close to it. And the family kind of finished their talk and they're walking up to the house. And it's so cute because they kind of get the closure they've always wanted. And one of the things, so like first we kind of see Jay, and Jay kind of says like he always wanted his dad and he always wanted that role model of like a man, and he realized that he always had that, but he had that in Hudson. And so he tells Hudson, like, I need you to be sorry for what you did because I need to be able to trust you again. And Hudson tells him, like, I really truly am sorry. And, like, I am that sorry. And at that point, Jay starts helping Hudson up the stairs. And I just love them. Like, I love them so much. And then Hudson's kind of thinking, and like after talking with his dad and stuff, you see that like he starts thinking about his mom and like June and stuff. And one of the things he says is that She had chosen to love him, and it had changed his life. Hud would love his child the way his mother had loved him, actively every day and without ambiguity. Like, I literally want to cry. And he pretty much says, like, I'm going to choose to love my children, like, the way she loved me. And, like, he wasn't going to go anywhere. And I just love that because he never had any of his parents. Like, June was, like, an adopted parent for him. And so that was the thing it says. But the one thing he knew in his bones was that he would not leave his children, if he was lucky, would know from the day that they were born that he was not going anywhere. I want to cry because I want to cry so bad. And then Kit just starts asking Nina, like, where she wants to go in Portugal, because she tells, like, she's like, that's like her dream. She kind of mentions it. And Nina's like, it doesn't matter. And Kit's like, no, it does. Like, you said it, and it does. And it just kind of shows that they're supporting each other. And Mick kind of realizes, like, it's not his place to kind of try anymore. Like, leave the door open, but, like, they don't want you there, so, like, just leave the door open. And that's pretty much it. But Mick decides to leave, and, like, he's finally leaving, and he hugs Nina, and he tells her thank you, and it's just, like, so cute, because he's, like, he essentially tells her, like, thank you, and she breaks down and starts crying, because she takes care of the family that he started, and, like, without no help and all of this, and it's just, it makes me sad. And then they all kind of, like, Casey's still there, and they're all kind of looking at her, and that was one thing they realized is that, like, she sits with them, they're like, okay, like, come sit with us, and she sits with them, and it says she needed someone to love her, and they could do that. That would be easy for them to do. June was gone, yet she was here, living through her children. I love June. Like, she loved people even when they didn't deserve it, and she loved people even though it hurt her sometimes. And I just love that about her, and I think that like, and I think that's something that is shown in Nina too, where she's like, where she just does what she has to do because she wants to make sure that her family's taken care of. And I love that about these two characters in particular, is like, no matter what they go through, they do what they have to for the people that they love, and to show that they love these people. And it's just like, I hate that. I'm not even done yet. Like, I still have 2 more hours. I mean, I'm almost done. There's only like 10 pages left. But, like, and I love this book. It's still 5-star for me. It's still 5-star. 7 a.m., and it's kind of ironic that Mick starts the fire. I love this book. I love Taylor Jenkins' rereading. She's so great. Yeah. Mick starts the fire, and then they convince Nina to go to Portugal, so she goes. And yeah, I just think that the book starts with this quote from, or like just saying all the fires that have hit Malibu, and it goes through different like years and stuff, and how that Malibu always has fires. And I just like that the final part is, it had brought destruction. It would also bring renewal, rising from the ashes, the story of fire. And it just kind of mentions how Malibu has fires all the time, like it's not anything new. But it's very significant, I think, for the family, is that, like, they very much are holding on to this, like, past and this story of Mick and June, and how it really shapes, like, who they are, and like, where they're, like, all these things, and the burdens they carry. And I love that. And it's just, like, I feel like it's so real and honest with, for, like, a bunch of different people. Like, I feel like I truly relate to Nina because of her parents. And yeah, I think this, like, the whole first part is the setup. Like, part 1 is the setup, and then part 2 you have, like, the chaos and destruction kind of shown throughout the party and stuff, and like of all of the things kind of just like bubbling up to the surface that maybe have been trying to get pushed down, and finally comes to a head when like everything comes to the surface, and then they're forced to deal with their issues, and they're forced to deal with their main problem, which is Mick. And yeah, it's just like it's a very healing moment. But I love this book. like i like I feel like Taylor Jenkins Reid does really well about writing these characters, and within the characters you have your main character, but they have a relationship to another character who's practically just like a side character, but it really shapes who they are, and like the way that they do things and stuff. Like with Malibu Rising, it is like our main character is Nina, our main character is Nina, and part of who she is and what she does and why she doesn't do things and why she does do things is because of June. And there's this part where she kind of looks like it's Nina thinking of this box of things that she was given to her from her mom. And it's a figurative box. Like, it's a mental thing of like all these things that she has because it was her mother's and she just inherited in some way. And that is like, for example, like her siblings, like taking care of her siblings. That's the seafood restaurant. That's the like weight of like just like Mick in itself is one of those things. And with having to finally set that like boundary up with Mick, she lets go of that one. And then the other thing is kind of like letting go of the seafood restaurant. And the one thing she does decide to keep is like obviously her siblings and her like wanting to be close to them in that way. And yeah, I think that was like a really good part, is that metaphor. it I feel like it spoke to me so well, because I feel like, and that kind of goes back to the 8 a.m. when we see it's like our parents like stories, or like our family histories or myths we tell ourselves to like figure out who we are. And it's very true. Like, up until this point, Nina carries with her every single part of her mom. Like, she carries the burdens her mom has. She carries everything. And I feel like it's not until the end of the book that she's finally able to kind of let go of these things. And it's just like, it's very great. And she's kind of able to kind of like live for herself, and relinquish all of that, because she's finally able to say goodbye to Mick. So yeah, but I really love, like, I feel like there's a lot of points where like there's a lot of points where Nina and June, it just felt like me and my mom. And I love this book. It's so cute. It's a very, very personal book for me. I feel like it hits all of like my points, which is like, I don't think I will ever, I don't know, who knows, but I relate so well to this book that when people tell me, they're like, oh, it's not a 5-star read for me, I'm like, oh, my life story is not a 5-star read for you. But it's really good. I still rate it 5 stars. I will always highly recommend Taylor Jenkins Reid. And yeah, I'm gonna go back and cry again, because I put myself through that. I'm actually really happy I did, because yeah, I think I'm gonna try to do it like a thing, because it's a good summer read, but it's also like a good, just like it gives me a lot of feelings. And every time I'm reading it, I'm always left thinking. And I really like this book. So yeah, but that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We shall see what's next to come.